Western Community College. Let me specify that. He possesses a BA in Modern Languages and Literature, an MBA in Marketing, a master's degree in teaching Spanish as a foreign and second language, a master's in applied linguistics to the teaching of Spanish, a master's in communication. He is also a specialist in weather aviation, and he has earned certification in air traffic control. He has certainly put this education to use, leading him to 20 years plus and still in counting of experience in teaching. His devotion to this passion has made him the recipient of multiple awards in educational excellence. He is truly dedicated to creating academic opportunity and security for his students, where they too can become lifelong learners. It is my pleasure, and I want you guys to give a warm welcome to Mr. Alexander Scott.
Okay, okay, okay. Can you hear me well? That happens a lot. You know, I just take the whole sound of the place everywhere I go. It's just like that. Well, thank you so much for being here today. How are you feeling today? No, I think you're no. How are you feeling today?
Awesome.
Yes, yes. Anytime people ask you how you feeling, and the first things that you say, "I'm good," we can tell that how good you are. So if you are really good, you have to say, "I'm good." You know, I'm excellent. So let me ask you back the question: how are you feeling today?
Excellent.
Some people are. Hello. The microphone is not feeling good, okay? But I'm feeling good. Today we're gonna talk about the stories of these four remarkable women. But first, I have to talk about one person that made a lot of changes in my life. And you know what? It was a woman too. I'm a son of a single mother who raised me by herself, taking both uh, roles of a mother and a father. Um, I have something that I have to write because I'm becoming a little bit more emotional about what I'm going to talk about because she did a lot for me. And I don't want to bring you any kind of somber situation to this, but she passed away like a couple of weeks. But hey, she's here with me, and that's why I'm standing in front of you, okay? Give me just 1 second. I'm coming back to backstage. I'm coming back in 2 seconds. No, it's not true. Let me start talking to you about this. I have the honor and the privilege of standing before you to celebrate the remarkable journey of these four women who defy all odds to become people of success. In a world where challenges can seem to be great to overcome, their stories serve as a testament to power of resilience and determination. I feel identified with them. Why? As I told you earlier, I'm an only child from a single mom, and she showed me the power of resilience and determination. My late mother embarked on a journey that demanded not only her strength, but also her emotional courage. Along with her pursuit to provide me the best possible life, she encountered obstacles that would have discouraged even the bravest souls. Growing up, I witnessed my mother determination as a single-handedly mom. There's a responsibility of both parents. But she didn't weaken. No, 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 no. She was so brave, like these four women that you have here. She persisted, like the topic of today. Persist. Though sleepless nights and endless sacrifices, even though I was a very good child, according to my standard, never been naughty, She dedicated herself to nurturing, educating, and guiding me toward a brighter future. Being raised by a single mother have taught me the power of resourcefulness and resilience. She was freaking resilient. She was just like that. She has become a guiding light in my life and showed me that obstacles in this life are not undefeatable. They all can be defeatable if we have strong determination and a positive mindset. Today, as we look at the incredible person that you see here, yes, this incredible person, can you see it? As you see this incredible person, it was because even though I wanted to go a different route, she told me that that's not going to happen here. She was raised by the Lord of the hand and showed me the right way to follow. She took me in an incredible journey to become a person that understands that resilience, determination, and courage are the road to success. And because of that, because of their steadfast love and determination, I have become the professional that I am. With the learning of my mom, with the teaching of my mom, I learn and I respect more than ever any woman that I know that has become successful. Because in the world that we're living now, like the song said, this is a man's world, right? I'm not going to sing. You have to pay for that. Okay? They have become the person that we can see today. So, what we're going to do, we're going to ask questions to these four ladies that they will show you that persistence and determination can get you to where they are. And trust me, they are successful women, like very successful. They are the ones that break the patterns that every time we're thinking about a doctor, if I say, think about a doctor, everybody's thinking about a male doctor, right? They broke that pattern. They broke the pattern to become those successful women that we will be talking today. Are you ready for that? Okay. I have my questions here. I studied them for 20 years. And there are questions that I researched a lot. Too much about them. I was the Facebook, CIA, NSA of their life. So if they are lying, I will let you know right away. Are you ready for that? Yes or no? Yes. Oh, thank you, thank you. Only Nina is alive today. Are you ready for that? Thank you. My goodness. Okay, let's get started. Why is it important to get a degree? Why is that? Why is that important to get that? And for you as a woman, why was that important? You can answer any kind of order. You don't have to answer. All of you don't have to answer, but you must answer. All of you. Cheryl.
So, why was it important for me to get a degree, and how did it lead to persistence? Is that your
That's
question?
correct. Yes.
Okay, so when I was growing up, I am one of 9 children to my parents, and they had goals for their children. And they wanted each of us, all 9 of us, to go to college. I had no desire whatsoever to go to college. And so my dream, my goal was to go into the U.S. Air Force. And that was how I prepared my life personally. So when it came to undergraduates, I didn't see the purpose of going to college. As a matter of fact, when I was growing up, if you ever came to my house and you went into my bedroom and you looked at all the posters on my wall in my bedroom, they would have been of Air Force jets. And so every single weekend, I would go to the recruiter's office downtown on Jefferson Street, talk to the recruiters about going into the Air Force. And it so happened the whole time I was doing this, my parents were saying to me, no daughter of mine is going into the military. I did not believe them. I thought I was the boss of me. They were saying, you're going to go to college. You're going to go to college. And so it came down to the point where, because of my age, they would have had to sign for me to go into the Air Force. And they refused. And I was absolutely devastated because that was my dream. That was my whole life, my vision for myself, jumping out of planes, traveling the world, doing all these wonderful things. And then so they said it one more time, and I got it. You are going to college. Now, one of the good things about my life and my parents, they weren't saying you're going to go to college and not preparing me for it. And so I was in a trio program at Roanoke College, the Upward Bound program. So the whole time, they had me doing that college path. I was taking all the college preparatory classes and doing all the wonderful things that you needed to do. So for me, my goal was not to go to college. I went. And I made a lot of mistakes because I went in the manner that I did. It was not my dream. And so I like telling students, if you really want to see someone who did all of the wrong things in terms of going to school, selecting your major, doing eeny, meeny, miny, mo, selecting the college that you're going to actually attend, because I had been admitted to lots of colleges. I had already had the plan at that point that I was going to be my older sister's roommate at Radford University. But then 2 weeks before classes started, I decided I was too much in love with my boyfriend. I could not do that. I could not go 45 minutes, an hour away. And so I applied to Roanoke. I got in. I received by far more scholarships than I received to go anywhere else. And so that was how I ended up going to college, my undergraduate degree at Roanoke. And once I got there, made a lot of mistakes, as I said. But then I learned through experiences that I had, like at the end of the first semester, I said I wasn't going back. And my parents said, oh, yes, you are. You're not giving up. This is what we want for you. And they explained to us why. They wanted us to have a better standard of living than they had, my parents. And so they believed, and I now I do as well, that education was the way. Being trained, knowing, being exposed to more than they had been exposed to, even though they had been exposed to a lot. And so for me, what kept me going then was my parents being the boss of me, after all.
That's the power of a boyfriend. No, I mean, no, no.
Not the
Okay, great. What a great journey, huh? How people make changes in their life. Any other? The panelists. I feel sometimes like I'm in the class when I can call it by name. I know them. Huh. I mean, if you don't want to talk, you
I'll
don't
share.
have to. But
I'll share. Can
you
y'all hear
must
me?
talk.
So I never did not think about going to college. I'm from a small town about 50 miles west from here. It's called Clifton Forge, and it is nestled right up beside West Virginia. Therefore, I have this very Appalachian accent that I've been made fun of most of my life.
Exotic.
It's
That golf
exotic.
says it's exotic.
So my desire was because it's multifactored. My dad, very smart, K through 12 student, star athlete. Then he had babies when he was 18. So his dream of being an engineer was able to go to a local community college. My mother was not educated, and when my parents were divorced, my father, who was I did see a disparity childhood. I went to high schools and 4 different middle schools. I saw how we struggled when I lived with my mother and my stepfather. Worked 4 jobs to support us. I did see my father have a higher standard of living because he did have at least an associate's had positions in which I've worked in a sewing factory, I've been a cake decorator, I was a dispatcher at a local police station. And so that in my head kept me going through what I wanted to do for myself for education. I just wanted to be in a better position than where I was when I was a child. I didn't have much control over that. I have control over being persistent in making sure that I finished high school, I was able to get into college. Now, like Cheryl, I wanted to be a marine biologist, and I didn't get to do that. So I had to basically go where my father told me to go because I was living with him at the time. And so didn't follow that dream. But everything I've done in education and the different programs and degrees that I've had, I kind of live by the mantra, things happen for a reason. So if I've tried to do something and it didn't work out in my favor, and I don't regret that I moved around so much because it exposed me to so right. So I'm very adaptable, flexible. I don't get too riled up too much about much of anything, not at work anyway, I guess. But it was all an experience that helped me as I persist and make myself better than what I thought my parents were. I'm not trying to better them, but I saw how they each struggled. And I was very determined that I didn't want to be in that position. And it's been quite a journey. But that, to me, is why education has been very important. It's given me opportunities that I'm very grateful for.
From Appalachian, do you understand that?
Well, the other thing too is that's made such an impact on me, and I'm sure other people can relate to this, is there is so much poverty from where I'm from. Drug abuse, alcoholism, and it's not just this area, but I did not want to stay in that. I didn't want to be a victim of that. I don't know that I ever would have, but I felt like an education would help me remove myself from that maybe circumstance. I don't live there. I don't plan to go back there and live. I can go back and I can appreciate the people that do live there because they're hard workers. But I think when you've grown up seeing that, there's a desire not to be in that same situation.
And that's what education helped you to get out of that
Absolutely.
situation. Yes.
My name is Shawnee Cook, and it's funny. I'm thinking back to when I was in high school, and now looking back, I know college was a choice, but for some of us in that moment, it's not a choice. You just know that it's what you have to do, and there were a couple of reasons that I felt it was something I had to do. One was birth order. I don't know how many of you are the oldest in the family, but sometimes when you're the oldest, the expectations are a lot different than they are for your younger siblings as they're coming through. So part of it is setting the example, and the other part is really based on the experiences that your parents went through. Or to you guys, the expectations from the parents were, you're not going to struggle like we did. My mom, when I was all through school, she worked in a factory, no air conditioning, so very very stringent working conditions. And my dad worked as a mental health worker for a state mental hospital. And so neither one of them really loved what they did. And so their goal was to make sure that they prepared their kids with the resources to be in a career, to get educated to be in a career that we loved. Little did I know my younger siblings would have a little bit more options than I did, but that's a whole other story. I'll let them come on a panel about their journeys. So the other reason was I thought I was going to be an anesthesiologist, and back then there weren't all the resources there are now to learn about careers, and those other opportunities that are out there. So I thought, anesthesiologist, you've got to go to college, but look at the money afterwards. Didn't think about all those other things that should be part of the career decision. So I ended up at UVA and was pre-med for all of 2 years until I got into pre-med chemistry and realized this isn't really coming as naturally as I think it should. I damage to someone as an anesthesiologist. And my first pre-med biology class, the first lab, I ended up getting sick and couldn't finish the dissection. So there were 2 indications, second year in, where I made it easy for the university and I weeded myself out of that particular program. But I still knew that getting my degree was important, and everybody tells you that it is important, and for many reasons it is. Coming out of college, my expectations really did not match what the reality is for many of us that come out of a college and expect the employers to roll out the red carpet. And so, because my only focus was on getting that degree, and I didn't take time to really prepare myself for a career, I graduated, and my first job out of college was working at a department store. And I'm looking at my coworkers, and they're high school students and women that are ladies that had been retired, and they were in their 80s, and I thought, okay, this is really, did I spend 4 years in college and get my degree for this? So it was a really challenging moment. Some of you may have gone through the same thing, but it really took some time after graduating from college for me in that moment to see the value of it, because I didn't feel like I was getting my return immediately after graduating. But then I met some wonderful mentors that helped me see that the degree, with some additional experience, with some career planning, with making the right connections, is really what you need to propel yourself forward. It wasn't an easy journey. My career has been one of happenstance, and thankfully fell into a career in career advising and managing that has been worthwhile. But it's been a journey. It didn't happen overnight. For many of us in our careers, it wasn't what was on our minds when we graduated. We probably had other plans. But for me, getting that degree, even though it wasn't in what I thought it was going to be, has really made all the difference for setting me up for the kind of career experiences that I've had. But it's been a journey, but worthwhile one.
There is something about medicine in these people, right? Everybody wants to be a medic, doctor, or something. Amy, you were the one that became a doctor, right? After anesthesiology, it was you, Cheryl, and Shawnee, too. Yvonne, do you want to be anesthesiology, too?
No, but I did want to
Oh,
go to
my
med
gosh,
school.
I'm telling
Actually, and that is so funny, and we see that with our students too. There's no way I could have ever gotten through organic chemistry. I know that. And I actually considered going into the military to let them pay for my schooling, but at that point I had a young child, looked at nursing, then I had another young child, and so like you said, our careers have been happenstance, and Amy White and I have talked about how we're the accidental deans out at Virginia Western, so it's all worked out.
That is true. I would say that never was being an academic administrator on my list of career choices. I'm Amy White, and I, like Yvonne, share this wonderful exotic accent from Southwest Virginia, near West Virginia. I grew up not too far from her, actually, in Buchanan, and I like for people to know that about me first, is that I am a local. And that drives much of my commitment to this community and to the youth of our community. Especially, I do try to provide opportunity. like many of you, I was a first generation. I am a first generation college student. Neither of my parents were educated past high school. I grew up at a gas station and on a farm. My dad owned a Shell station that is still on exit 168 in Arcadia off of 81. I grew up pumping gas there. He started there when I was 3 years old and kept that throughout my youth. And we have a family farm not too long from there. And I did a lot of farm work as a young child as well. I guess that is kind of where I developed this love for science. And that's really what drove my inclination to go to college. It wasn't that someone was telling me I needed to go. I had some teachers telling me I needed to go. I really hadn't thought about it. My family was fine. My parents were fine. But I knew that I loved biology, and I loved it with such a passion. And I tell this true story. When I was a young girl, of course, my parents bought me dolls to play with. So I had a whole host of little baby dolls. And instead of playing family or playing teacher or playing other things with those dolls, I put them in bed and gave them diseases. And I just thought that was like grand fun. So I feel like my fate was kind of sealed early on, but I was so blessed that even though my parents didn't understand what it meant to send me to college, they knew that that was a way that I could better myself if I wanted to go. So they dropped me off at James Madison University. That is where I went undergrad. And I still remember them leaving, confused, and I was confused. None of us really knew what being in college meant. And this is a really timely moment to have this discussion, because just last weekend, I spent the weekend at a friend's house, and there were 9 of my closest friends from undergraduate years. We got together as kind of a little reunion. And that was almost 40 years ago. So that's one of my lessons to you, is the relationships that you can develop now by going through this process together can be lifelong support systems for you. But we hadn't seen each other for some time, many of us, and we shared a lot of laughs. And it made me think back to the things I didn't know that first year when I was dropped off in Harrisonburg. And we laughed this week about my accent, number one. They still laugh about that. We chuckled about that a lot back in the day. When I went to college, I didn't know what Chinese food was. They said, let's go out for Chinese. I'm like, what's that? And they all chuckled because they're like, what do you mean, what's that? I'm like, we don't have that in Buchanan. And then they would talk about things that they watched on TV. And I'm like, we only have 2 channels in Buchanan. I don't know what you're talking about. So growing up that way, it can exclude you if you let it, but it can also be such a point of comedy if you take it the right way. And I learned so much from them about what to order when I went to a restaurant that I didn't know the food, what to watch, how to talk about movies. They came in talking about something like AP credits. I'm like, what is AP? We don't have that in Buchanan. So my roommate was a full semester ahead of me because she went to a larger school north of us, and I had never heard of AP credits. That's okay. I still graduated. So I think those differences, you can let them take you one way or the other. You can learn from them and laugh at them and have fun with it, or you can let it beat you up. And I really encourage you to do the laughing and the learning route rather than the beating up route, because there are always going to be people who have experiences which you perceive as better than yours. They may not be better, they're just different. But you can learn from that, and it can bring you joy for 40 years, and I hope a few more. So that's kind of how I got to college. It was on accident, and many of the good things in my life have been on accident. But one thing I hope we can get to in the discussion is, once I got there, something that was abundantly important to me and have impacted my trajectory so much is working with mentors. And that was immensely beneficial and meaningful to me, and have helped me succeed in ways I never thought I could.
Wow, from Buchanan. I always have a problem say channel, you don't say cannon, right? So, but Buchanan is special. So, but from Buchanan,
We would say you're not from here.
hey, trust me, I know. It's just like the exit body talk. I know French, and in French you say body too, right? So they said body talk, and I looked for body talk, passed it like 3 times. I couldn't find the exit to body talk. So now that you guys were talking about your journey, we all have obstacles, right? That we have to overcome. Tell us one obstacle that you have to overcome, and how do you overcome it? And did you find anyone who helped you along the road? Either one of you can.
I'll
start.
go ahead and start that since I started the other conversation about my choice in not going to school. But one of the things that I think about is how, because I did not want to go to college, that became for me a major obstacle. I couldn't see beyond it. Like my freshman, my sophomore year, I just could not see beyond that. And then as I got older, as I had a lot of conversations with my mom in particular about why are you doing this to me? This is my life kind of thing. And writing her letters, because I couldn't sometimes talk to her. So she had this whole thing of letters that I sent to her saying, this is not fair. But I got to a point, and this was also through conversations, that I realized I had a choice in this situation. I may not have had a choice in going to college, but I had a choice of what I was going to do while I was there. And so once I started thinking about, okay, there were a lot of issues that I had to endure while I was there, mainly because I was the only African-American woman in my class while I was there. And I was a business administration major. And so I had a lot of conversations in my class with my peers, with my instructors that were just, they were awful. And so I had a roommate for one semester who had started at Roanoke, left after one semester, came back to get her bachelor's in nursing. So she only needed one more semester. And she taught me, she really mentored me that one semester that she was my roommate. And she told me about the importance of doing your research, never arguing with people when you are not able to convince them that what they're saying makes absolutely no sense. Support the information that you share when you go into a class and you have to defend a point. Support it with research, with the data. Always go back to the data. And so I had people like her name's Maxine, who was a mentor to me. And so together, I was able to overcome a lot of the biases that I had to endure while I was there. I was a residential student, so I wasn't able to go home every day or whatever. I lived on campus. And so, but not only that, in making the choices that I did, once I decided, okay, I'm here, I don't have a choice, I'm just gonna make the most of it. The students on the campus itself, I had a few faculty members who were just brilliant. The president of the college at the time was Dr. Norman Fintel. And so every single day that I would eat in the cafeteria, he would come and join me. And we would have these really dynamic conversations about life, about the world, about the college experience. And the funny thing about my story too is that even though I didn't have a desire to go to college, I always had a desire to learn. And so I am definitely a lifetime learner. I will be in college forever. And so, I got my master's, and then I started working on my certificate of advanced studies because I love to learn. And I believe that was what my parents saw in me as well. I love to learn. I just needed to learn more than what I desired to learn about those planes and the Air Force.
Okay, great. Any other?
I'll share a personal obstacle, a rather significant one, I'd say. So, as you learned, I went to JMU, and I got a bachelor's degree in biology, went on to graduate school at MCV, in Richmond and studied microbiology and immunology. In the meantime, after that was finished, I came back here. I had married and had 2 young children, basically a newborn and a 21-month-old. And I found myself a single mom unexpectedly at that time. So here I was, no job, 2 babies, and a husband that decided there were greener pastures that he wanted to pursue. So I had to find a job. I had these 2 children to take care of, and what was I going to do? So that's a crisis moment in a lot of ways of looking at that. You can make a lot of decisions at that time. And so, as I said, going back to those little sick baby dolls, I've always loved microbiology. I had my graduate degree in microbiology, so I fell back to that, and I picked up the phone, and I'll never forget this day. The kids were screaming. You know how they if you're not right there with them, they just want to be on your leg, right? And they were talking and screaming, and I wanted to make a phone call, and I locked the bathroom door. And my daughter was out on the outside. I can still hear her pounding, "Mama, Mama." And I'm like, just give me 5 minutes. I just need 5 minutes. And I shut that bathroom door, and I called Hollins University. I called just the information line, 362-6000. I still remember it. And I said, I need to speak to the head of the biology department. And so they transferred me through to Dr. Becky Beach. And she answered the phone by the grace of God, I think. She answered the phone, and I said, "Hey." And the kids are screaming in the background. We've laughed about this many times. And I introduced myself, said I've moved back to the area. I would really like to teach for you all. I'd never taught a day in my life. I had subbed for 3 weeks for an advisor at JMU. Other than that, I had never been in the classroom except on that side of the podium as a student. And I said, I would really love to teach. I love microbiology, and I love immunology. Do you have anything? And she said, well, I'm trying to get ready to teach an immunology class, and I haven't thought about immunology in 20 years. Could you come up here and talk to us? I said, absolutely. And that's how I started teaching. I worked as an adjunct for Hollins until the time came at Virginia Western when I took on administrative duties and could no longer do that. And then that was an adjunct job. I still had to think about things like benefits and grocery bills and transportation for those children. And so I used the same tactic 2 years later. I called my alma mater, JMU, and I said, hey, y'all got any openings? I'd love to teach for you. And I got a full-time job teaching at JMU. So I got that opportunity, and I really started my career in education by picking up the phone and asking. So if I could lend you any advice today, ask for what you want. It doesn't cost anything to ask, and you have to find the power, and it's scary. It was scary with those 2 little kids beating down that bathroom door. Like, oh my gosh, what if she says no? Well, then the kids are still beating down the door. But what if she said yes? And she did. So ask for what you want.
It's a win-win situation. If they say yes, you win. If they say no, you know the answer. Mm-hmm. So it's a win-win anyway.
I feel like I'm in class.
You are. I mean, you are not obligated to talk, but you must talk.
I'll chime in. For me, I think back to transitioning from high school to college, and then some of the other learning environments that I've been in. Sometimes when you're in high school, the way you learn is different. You go to class, and that's all it takes. You listen in class. So I was so used to being a straight A student in high school. Fast forward to college, and I go to class, and my expectation is everything that I need to know that professor is going to tell me in class. And so it was a hard lesson realizing that class was only part of what you were supposed to know. There was still reading. There were still labs that you had to go to. So it was a challenge juggling all of that, especially for someone like me who has some attention challenges. And so that has been an obstacle for me over the last several decades, just really trying to operate in an academic setting where it's evident with counterparts. It just seems like it comes so naturally. The learning, the remembering, the reciting, the processing and analyzing, and for me, it's always extra time and effort that's put into that. And so I know that that's always going to be an obstacle for me, but I have found a way to sort of work around and cope and take my time and do a little extra reading to get to the point where I feel like I'm where I should be. Of course, now there's so many more resources than there were 30 years ago. 30 years ago, there wasn't a name for it. Now we've got a name for everything and a medication if you want it. But really, for me, it was understanding what my challenges were in a learning environment, how that resonates also to learning in the career environment, and just knowing enough about what extra prep and time that I need to take and who I need to sort of fill in those gaps. You look around at any setting, there's always someone that has the knowledge and the information that you can learn from. So what Amy was saying about the mentor, sometimes in the professional environment, you don't really call people mentors, but you know who your go-to people are. So just make sure you have those go-to people that can help balance some of the challenges that you feel like you have.
Excellent, excellent.
So mine is, I guess, a personal slant as well. I guess I know a lot of the people in the audience, and you probably wouldn't maybe not believe this about me, but I have crippling social anxiety. And it has been hard for me, when I was younger. I'm trying not to get upset. But I think it's good to share that with everybody, because you shouldn't limit yourself based on challenges you have, right? So I've practiced and I've practiced and I've practiced. When I was in undergrad school and I came from this little city in the mountains, or the town in the mountains, and went to my college, it was very overwhelming. And kind of like what Amy was saying, I think a lot of the students that were at my college were from New York and New Jersey, and they were very affluent. And I was the poor girl coming from Appalachia. So there were things that I wasn't quite accustomed to, which kind of exacerbates that some. So my challenge in college wasn't, okay, well, it is a different transition when you leave high school and you go to college. There's more expectations. And I handled that pretty well. But the biggest thing for me was the social aspect of it. So, it was good. It was hard. It was painful at times. It was joyous at times. And along my journey, I am an observer of people. So what I do is I watch how people act and react, and I've used that as my toolkit throughout my life to be able to interact with people. And I know that relationships are very, very, very important in what we do. And so, when I came to Virginia Western, and this is what I've really liked about working here, is I knew that if I wanted to move around, I needed to build relationships, because I've done that in other jobs that I've had. And that's been fun for me. It's hard, but you have to put yourself out there, as stressful as it can be. Because when you make the connections, and I can say with these ladies, I have connected with them closely over the years, whether we call them mentors, friends, whatever, they're positive influences. I've had a lot of associations with them for various reasons. But I think for me, it's also made me more empathetic for anyone that doesn't feel like they fit within the norm, whatever the heck that is, right? We're all different. We all have special qualities. We may have some challenges, but we all have strengths. So when I interact with people, I try to remember that. You know, what is special about them? What can I remember? What can I put in my toolkit to help them remember? This is why I like to talk to you, or this is why I like to have a conversation with you, or how can I help you? And then sometimes at the end of the day, I just crash and burn because it can be a little exhausting. You know, so but like Shawnee said, there's ways now that we didn't know when I was in college, and I was so, you know, I guess what they called it back then was shy and introverted, that I didn't know how to deal with it. Now there's resources that I can use. And believe me, I'm 54 years old, so I've been dealing for this for a while. So I've evolved with my tactics, right, my strategies. But I feel for students that come in that may have some of those same circumstances. So that's been a big obstacle for me, and I won't say I still don't deal with it, because I do. I just know how to deal with it better.
Well, that's wonderful. Is there any question from the audience about these panelists? Do we have any question? After we have heard the obstacles that they have gone through, let's see what they have become. Because you don't know, you just heard all the stories. Now let's see where they stand now, what they do for Virginia Western. So let's get started with you, Cheryl. What do you do now?
What do I do for Virginia Western? I am a success coach with the TRIO Student Support Services Program. And I love working with our students. I also teach an SDV class, and I do a lot of community engagement work because I see Virginia Western as being this really great resource, and we have so many opportunities for people who are living in our communities, and I live in Northwest Roanoke. So I am very keen on making sure that everyone in Northwest Roanoke knows about the opportunities that Virginia Western has to offer. And I often tell people within my community and my neighborhood that I believe everyone that lives in my neighborhood should have a credential of some sort that they received while attending Virginia Western, because it's there, it's here.
I'm sorry for the Air Force, but we stole her. You know, I'm sorry for that. Okay, Amy, what do you do for the college? For the college, no. What do you do now?
So I am the dean of the School of STEM and Workforce Solutions. Over the summer, we did a reorganization at the college and brought our workforce team into our academic school, and it's making for a really nice one-door approach to education. I like to say we offer a spectrum of opportunity, and just like my friend Cheryl was saying, you know, we want opportunity for everyone. I still teach in the biology department. In fact, I had an immunology lecture this morning. That is kind of the highlight of the day. You can ask my colleagues that. I love being in the classroom because that is where my energy comes from in large part. So I'm happy to still do that. Like Cheryl said too, I think part of our jobs, no matter what our titles are, is working as an ambassador for this college and making sure everyone knows the opportunities that are here, and that our area of the Commonwealth gets the resources that are available. Because if you recall, I remember when I went to college, I did not have access to resources that many people did. So I serve on a couple of state commissions. Probably most relevant is the STEM Education Advisory Board that is appointed by the governor, and my work on there is largely directed toward resources headed for Southwest Virginia and making sure that we are represented well. And I also serve on the Botetourt County Board of Supervisors, and that's a really interesting look. It allows me to really connect a lot of pieces with respect to opportunity, economic development, and education, and how we can, the community colleges has a wonderful gift in that we are pretty nimble. We can move quickly, and we can meet the needs of the community quickly. So in that role, I can really see what those needs are and help to provide opportunity.
So you can see from Buchanan, I said right, from Buchanan to look representing the whole region. So it can tell you a lot about overcoming obstacles.
I am the manager of our Hall Associates Career Center here at Virginia Western. We are located, this is my plug time. We're located on the second floor of the Student Life Center. If you have not been to see us yet, please put us at the top of the list of things that you need to do, maybe not this week, but next week. And what I absolutely love about being in this service role is having the opportunity to do for others what I wish someone had been there to do for me. And that is truly taking time to find the purpose for why you are here at Virginia Western. And then how can we turn that purpose into a profession that really gives you a lifelong return on your educational investment. So sitting with students and helping you make that connection between your interests and your values and things that you enjoy doing. Is there a world problem or a community problem that you want to solve? How can you really turn those things that energize you and bring you joy into a career? And then preparing for that career so that it doesn't take you as long to reach that career goal as it has for some of us. So there's, I love what I say happens in the Career Center is really seeing that transformation. Students come and sometimes don't have an idea of what you want to do next, don't know how to get there. And in a 2-year time frame, we see what happens when students select the right program and they have a career goal. And we call it 0 to 60 because we see students coming in and their salary is at 0. And then 2 years out from Virginia Western, some are able to make that 60,000. So that's our 0 to 60. But absolutely love what I do. My pathway was very crooked getting here. I had lots of jobs, and it's funny because parents, of course, had 1 or 2 jobs, and that was the advice back then. You find one employer and you stay with them for life, and that's just not the case for many of us. So just be prepared for that journey, take advantage of the resources, and I am just truly excited to be in this particular role that can potentially have some impact and definitely brings me joy.
So I am the Dean of the School of Business, Technology, and Trades. I've had the pleasure of working in a lot of different departments at Virginia Western. So one reason I wanted to share my personal challenge with you is because it doesn't have to limit what you do. When I started working with Virginia Western, I started working part-time as a career coach, and I was in a high school, working with 9th through 12th grade students and basically recruiting for Virginia Western. And I loved it. I really did. I love working with students. I miss students, and I know my people I work with have heard me say that. But so from there, I went into academic advising. I went into the STEM school and advised specifically in those programs, and that's how I met Amy, and we worked together for a few years. And then I moved into assistant dean and then dean. And I sincerely appreciate Virginia Western having faith in me and giving me the opportunity to take on these new positions. It has been a lot of hard work. It is very hard. But at the end of the day, my personal mission and professional mission is that I want every person in this community to have the ability to be self-sufficient and take care of themselves and take care of their families. I mean, that is what community college is about. And I don't know anybody that works here that doesn't think that. That is the heart of what a community college is. I can appreciate the fact that we're all in the same mission, and there's a couple things that I do that, this is not a quiz, you don't need to remember, but my programs are what we call career technical education. So when students come into the programs in my academic school, they go straight into the workforce. So it's really important for us to provide quality education, provide industry credentials, and I have the funding that we can do. I oversee that to help our students too. So I always want to make sure, along with collaboration across the college, that our students have opportunities, because you can do so much, right? And when you just take the first step, and whether it's a credential, whether it's a small career study certificate or associate's degree, it can lead you in so many different directions. I'm embarrassed to tell y'all how many jobs I've had. I've had a lot. Because there was no straight line. And that's kind of the beauty of it, because every job you have, you learn something different. You meet different people, and you learn a different skill set. So it makes you a valuable employee when you've got a larger scope of skill sets that you can use in your job, and you can also help your employees or your team learn from you, and vice versa. So the job's hard. I'm not going to say I don't get frustrated, because I do, but this has been a really good opportunity for me, and I appreciate it very much.
Well, you can see that we're talking about tour guides, not travel agent. Travel agent, they send you to places they've never been. Tour guides will take you to places that they have been. So let's give a round of applause to the panelists of the day today. Our trio students will talk to you now about some interesting information.
Hello. On behalf of TRIO, we would like to thank you for serving as our panelists today. Please accept this token of our appreciation.
Thank you all so much for coming. And outside, we have wonderful food for you that we bought. It was very expensive. And so enjoy it and have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much for coming, guys.